What if I told you, the most powerful way to defeat a narcissist, isn't through revenge, isn't through arguments, isn't through clever comebacks, but through silence, not the silence of surrender, but the silence of inner strength. You see, narcissists don't just crave your love, they don't even mind your hate. As long as you're reacting, they win. They feed off your emotional energy, like oxygen. They drag you into chaos, they twist the narrative, and before you know it, your life starts revolving around their drama. But what if you refused to play their game? What if you didn't explain, you didn't defend, you didn't chase closure, and instead, you let your stillness say everything? Stoic philosophy teaches us, real power isn't loud, it's not reactive, it's calm, grounded, unshakable. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome during its darkest days, once said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's not just wisdom, it's a battle strategy. You don't rise above a narcissist by fighting fire with fire, you rise by becoming untouchable, not because you're numb, but because you choose peace over chaos, discipline over drama. And if you've ever dealt with a narcissist, you know how deep their manipulation runs. They test your boundaries, they poke at your insecurities, they bait you into fights that drain your soul. But I've seen people break free. A woman once told me, "The moment I stopped defending myself, was the moment I felt free." He didn't know how to control silence. That's the kind of strength we're talking about. So ask yourself, what if you stopped reacting? What if you turned your energy inward, and focused on healing, building, growing? What if you stopped trying to fill the silence they left, and finally made that silence your peace? This video isn't about punishing anyone, it's about protecting you. It's about stepping out of their toxic orbit, and reclaiming the one thing they can never touch, your inner clarity. Because the moment you stop explaining, the moment you start living with quiet confidence, you become a force they can't understand, and a person they can no longer manipulate. And that's exactly what we're about to explore. Here are 15 Stoic strategies to disarm a narcissist, not with noise, but with silence. Let's dive in. Let's begin with something deceptively simple, but quietly life-changing. Withdraw your attention. That's it. No long explanations, no emotional texts, no dramatic exits, just silence, rooted in self-respect. You see, narcissists don't thrive on love, or even approval, they thrive on reaction. Love gives them fuel, anger gives them control, even outrage, especially outrage, gives them something more valuable than your affection, your attention. And here's the truth no one tells you. It's not about how much you care, it's about what you continue to feed. Have you ever tried to explain yourself to someone who twists every word you write? A long message, trying to clear the air, only to feel more misunderstood, more exhausted? That's no accident, it's a trap. Because the moment you start explaining, defending, reacting, you're back in their game, and they've already won. But here's the shift: the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop explaining, stop engaging, stop responding, they're left with the one thing they can't control, your silence. And let's be clear, this isn't a cold shoulder, this isn't revenge, it's discipline, it's protecting your peace, not punishing them. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Withdrawing your attention isn't weakness, it's reclaiming your power. It's saying, "I don't owe you my energy, I don't need your validation, I choose clarity over chaos." Will they panic? Absolutely. They'll guilt trip you, they'll love bomb you, they'll try every trick in the book, to pull you back into the cycle, because your attention is oxygen, and without it, their fire dies. But this time, you don't light the match, because silence, when it comes from strength, isn't emptiness, it's a boundary, it's presence without noise, and in that stillness, you become something they can't touch. You don't need to prove them wrong, you don't even need closure, your peace is the closure. So ask yourself this: are you giving your attention to someone who builds you up, or someone who tears you down? And if it's the latter, maybe the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. Let your silence speak for your growth, let it reflect your standards, let it remind them, and more importantly, remind you, that your energy is sacred, not everyone deserves access to it. That is Stoic power, and that is where your healing begins. If that resonates with you, stay with me, because what's coming next might just change the way you see power forever. Let's talk about boundaries, not the kind you scribble in a journal after a bad day, but the kind you actually live by, the kind you hold calmly, consistently, and without apology. Here's the truth most people avoid: setting a boundary means nothing unless you enforce it, and when you're dealing with a narcissist, enforcement isn't optional, it's everything, because narcissists, they don't respect boundaries. They test them, they poke at them, like a child testing a fence. Looking for a weak spot, you say, "Please don't call me after 10. They call at midnight, you say, "I need space." They show up unannounced, smiling, like they didn't hear a thing, and when you push back, they twist the narrative: you've changed, you're being selfish. But what they're really saying is, "I can't control you like I used to." And that terrifies them. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." And he was right. Most of us don't fail at boundaries because we're weak, we fail because we imagine the discomfort that might follow, the awkward silence, the guilt, the confrontation we're desperate to avoid. But here's where everything shifts: the moment you set a boundary, without apologizing for it, something inside you changes. You stop bending, you stop explaining, you stop shrinking to fit someone else's version of you. That doesn't mean they'll take it well. They may act offended, they may pretend to respect it, just to cross it later. But that's the test, because a real boundary isn't a threat, it's a truth. It's not loud, it doesn't slam the door, it simply closes quietly, and that quiet is your strength. You see, narcissists are used to reactions, they're used to bending people, but when you remain still, firm, grounded, when you calmly repeat your no, again and again, they begin to realize something devastating: the door they used to walk through is no longer open. So ask yourself, and be honest, where in your life have you been negotiating your boundaries out of fear, and what might your peace look like if you finally stopped? You don't have to be cold, but you do have to be clear, because clarity is kindness to yourself. And when you hold the line, you don't just protect your boundary, you reclaim your power. Let me tell you something most people never realize: a narcissist isn't most disturbed by your anger, not even by your harshest words. What unsettles them the most is your calm. That's right. When you stay grounded, when you don't flinch, when their chaos fails to shake you, that's when they lose control. Because a narcissist thrives on emotional instability. They feed on reaction, tears, yelling, self-doubt. That's how they know they still have power. Your reaction becomes their proof: I still matter, I still own space in your mind. But what if you didn't give them that? What if, instead of breaking down, you stood still? What if your silence wasn't passive, but intentional? That's where your power begins. The Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius once said, "External things are not the problem, it's your assessment of them." And this you can erase right now. Think about that. It's not the storm around you, it's your interpretation of the storm, and the moment you stop giving it meaning, it loses its grip. Emotions are not facts, they're weather patterns. They come, they go, but you are not the storm, you are the sky, you are the stillness, underneath it all. Have you ever been in a fight, where your calmness made the other person even angrier? That's not weakness, that's clarity. It's the moment they realize, they can't reach you anymore, and yes, they'll push harder, they'll guilt trip you, provoke you, call you cold, because your peace threatens their control. But here's the shift, you're no longer handing over the remote to your emotions. And no, this doesn't mean you suppress how you feel, it means you master your response. You feel the anger, and choose stillness anyway. You hear the insult, and stay rooted in truth. That kind of calm, it's rare, it's powerful, and to someone who feeds on drama, it's terrifying. So next time they try to bait you, pause, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Or is this just another game? Because when you don't take the bait, you take back the script, you become the stone in the storm, still, silent, unshakable. You don't need to raise your voice to show strength. You don't need to prove anything. Your calmness is the message, your stillness is the closure, your peace is the boundary. So let them rage, let them twist the story, let them shout, and you remain whole, unbothered, untouchable. That's what Stoic power looks like, and that is where your healing begins. There's a trap many of us fall into, especially when dealing with narcissists, or emotionally manipulative people. It's the urge to explain ourselves, to justify our decisions, to defend our boundaries, to make someone understand why we've changed. But here's the truth no one tells you, they're not confused, they're not seeking truth, they're seeking control, and every time you explain, you hand them a map to your emotional landscape. Think about it. Have you ever left a conversation feeling more confused than when you started? That's not clarity. That's extraction, that's someone gathering information, not to understand you, but to weaponize it. They'll say things like, "You're overreacting. You're being selfish. Why are you so cold now?" But behind those words lies a deeper message: I miss being able to control you. You see, narcissists don't want dialogue, they want leverage, and the more you explain, the more you give them fuel. This is why the Stoic philosopher Epictetus gave us one of the most liberating reminders: do not explain your philosophy, embody it. You don't need a PowerPoint to defend your peace, you don't need to write an essay on why you're protecting your space. Your life, lived in alignment with your values, is the only explanation you ever need. I've been there, I've stayed in conversations that drained me, hoping if I just said the right words, they'd finally understand. But here's the truth. They understood just fine, they just didn't care, because it was never about understanding, it was about winning. And that's when I learned, silence is clarity. Silence doesn't mean you have nothing to say, it means you've said enough. It means your time, your energy, your peace are no longer up for debate. So the next time someone demands to know why you've gone quiet, why you've stopped playing their game, why your boundary is now non-negotiable, let your silence speak, let your clarity be the message, because some people don't deserve access to your reasoning, they only want to use it against you. And once you stop explaining, you stop being controlled. That's not cold, that's not cruel, that's wisdom, that's self-respect, that's freedom. What if your greatest comeback didn't make a sound? No speeches, no announcements, no revenge arc to post about, just quiet, steady progress, a morning coffee brewed in peace, a gym session where you're not thinking of them, a deep breath before sleep, and no voice in your head. But your own, that kind of comeback, it confuses people, especially narcissists, because they don't just want access to your life, they want the spotlight, they want to be the reason you win, or the excuse for why you fall apart. But when you rise, without explaining, without showing off, without turning your healing into a performance, that's when the illusion breaks. They realize, they no longer have a role in your story, and that silence, it's louder than anything you could ever say. You see, narcissists feed on relevance, even being your villain gives them meaning. If you're still arguing with them, still proving your worth, still trying to show how well you're doing, they're still in your life, just wearing a different mask. But Stoic wisdom offers a different path, one that doesn't require an audience. Marcus Aurelius warned us, the approval of the crowd means nothing, if you're not at peace within yourself. Let that sink in. This isn't about proving them wrong. It's about proving to yourself that you don't need to prove anything. The Stoics believed, real power doesn't need applause, virtue, not victory, is the highest aim. So, instead of posting your progress, live it. Instead of explaining your glow-up, embody it. Instead of letting their absence fuel your rage, let it deepen your peace. Imagine this, you're doing the work, you're getting healthier, you're choosing better conversations. You're no longer checking who viewed your story, you no longer flinch when their name shows up. That's power, that's healing, and best of all, they don't get to watch, because your life is no longer a stage for someone else's drama. It's a sacred space you protect, and when someone finally asks, whatever happened to you too? You don't need to explain, you don't owe a backstory, you just smile, and keep walking. Let your life be the answer to the questions they'll never get to ask. Let your discipline become your declaration, let your routine be your revolution, because that quiet success, that's the kind they'll never understand, and the kind that doesn't need to be. Have you ever loved someone so much that you lost yourself trying to fix them? There's a part of you, maybe right now, that still wants to understand them. You think, maybe they act this way because they were hurt. Maybe if I love them just a little more, they'll finally change. And let me be absolutely clear, that compassion, that empathy, it's not weakness, it's proof. You have a beautiful heart, but here's the hard truth, even your kindness can be weaponized, when it's given without boundaries. This is where the ancient Stoics offer something timeless and powerful. It's called detached empathy, not coldness, not indifference, but the ability to understand, without absorbing, to see someone's pain clearly, without letting it become your own, because manipulators, especially narcissists, don't just twist words, they twist your empathy into guilt. Your care becomes a leash. Your compassion becomes the cage you lock yourself in, and suddenly, love starts to feel like self-abandonment. Epictetus once said, it's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. In the same way, it's not just their behavior that hurts you, it's the story you tell yourself about why they do what they do, and what you think you owe them because of it. But here's the truth you need to remember, you can acknowledge someone's wounds, without making their healing your mission. You can say, I see your pain, and still walk away. With love for yourself, empathy doesn't mean drowning in someone else's storm, it means being able to stand at the shoreline, feel the wind, and still choose not to be swept away. That's not cruel, that's clarity. Think back, have you ever walked out of a conversation, completely drained, like your spirit had been pulled out of you? That's not love, that's emotional overexposure. You were absorbing what was never yours to carry, and that's where detached empathy becomes your shield. You step back, you observe patterns, but you don't dance with them, you offer kindness. But you don't sacrifice your sanity, because you can care. Without carrying, you can love. Without losing yourself, you can say, I wish you healing, but I will no longer break myself trying to save you. That is real compassion, that is Stoic strength. You are not required to become someone's emotional crutch. You are not obligated to explain your worth to those who profit from your confusion. So if you've ever wondered, can I still care and still leave? Yes, you can, because detached empathy isn't the absence of love, it's the presence of self-respect. You can feel deeply and still protect what you feel. You can be kind, you can be strong, you can be free, all at once, and that is where your true healing begins. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away, not with a dramatic goodbye, not with shouting or tears, not with a final text meant to make them understand, just a quiet, unwavering exit, grounded in clarity. Because here's the truth, most people never admit, narcissists don't fear confrontation, they fear finality. They rely on one thing above all else, your return. They think your silence is just part of the cycle. They count on your doubt, they pull at your empathy like a thread, hoping you'll unravel, just enough to come back. But what happens when you don't? What happens when you leave, and mean it? No speech, no performance, no announcement, just the door closing, gently, and never reopening. That's when the illusion shatters. Because silence isn't absence. It's a declaration. You're not punishing them, you're protecting yourself. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. And when your thoughts become clear, you begin to see, you are not here to fix chaos, you are not the cure for someone else's storm, you are not responsible for their healing, especially when they refuse to do the work themselves. You are here to live, fully, freely, and without guilt. Let me ask you something. How many moments have you wasted trying to explain yourself to someone who only listens to win? How much peace have you traded away for closure that never came? Now imagine this. You don't slam the door, you don't make a scene, you simply stop standing in a room that was never meant for your light. You walk, not because you're angry, but because you're done trying to convince them you're worth staying for. And yes, they may chase, with guilt, with fake apologies, with chaos disguised as remorse. But hear me, you don't owe them a second chance to break you. You don't even owe them a reply, because this time, you don't look back. Seneca once said, life is long, if you know how to use it. So don't waste it explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you. Don't spend another chapter waiting for them to become the person they pretended to be in the prologue. This is your turning point, not with vengeance, not with noise, but with purpose. Real strength doesn't stay to prove a point, it walks away in silence and rebuilds, without an audience. So ask yourself, are you leaving to be heard, or are you leaving to be free? Because when you choose peace over performance, you don't just close a chapter. You start writing a whole new book, one they'll never get to read. Have you ever noticed how they study you? Not just your words, but your silence. Not just what you say, but how you breathe, how your eyes shift, how long you pause before you answer. Because narcissists aren't listening to understand, they're scanning for weakness. Your sigh becomes their signal, your hesitation becomes their strategy. Every emotional flicker you show becomes a lever they can pull to shift the balance of power. And that's why one of the greatest defenses against manipulation is emotional opacity. Let them see your presence, but not your pressure. Let them hear your words, but never your worry. Be clear, be calm, but unreadable. And let me be clear, this isn't about becoming cold, this is about becoming calm, not suppression, but self-possession, not shutting down, but standing tall. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "True power lies in self-control, not in the suppression of emotion." You don't have to stop feeling, you just have to stop giving your emotions away, like open code someone else can rewrite. Think of it like this: a mountain doesn't shout during the storm, it doesn't collapse, and it doesn't explain itself, it just holds. And in that stillness, it becomes immovable. So next time someone tries to provoke you, pause, don't flinch, don't explain, don't feed the fire, just breathe, hold your ground, let your stillness speak for you. Because here's the truth: the more reactive you are, the easier you are to read and to control. But when you respond with centered calmness, no rage, no collapse, you become unpredictable, you become unshakable, you become untouchable. Have you ever seen someone spiral just because you refuse to play the game? That's not an accident, that's Stoic strength. At work, they can't manipulate what they can't decode, they can't twist what you never offered up, they can't destabilize someone who doesn't broadcast their emotions like an open signal. So guard your feelings, hold your standards close. Not everyone deserves access to your emotional world. This isn't cruelty, it's clarity. You're not shutting them out, you're just locking the gate to your peace, and not everyone gets the key. And here's the question to ask yourself: when they can no longer read you, can they still reach you? Maybe the most powerful version of you is the one who stays calm, speaks less, and holds the line. They didn't steal your time, you gave it away, but not anymore. Let me ask you something simple, but deeply uncomfortable. How much of your life has been stolen, not by force, but by distraction? Not just hours, not just days, but years, quietly drained, while you were busy reacting. Years spent arguing, over-explaining, waiting for someone to change, holding your breath for an apology that never came, running in circles around chaos that was never yours to begin with. See, narcissists don't need to break you, they just need to keep you busy, confused, exhausted, off track. Because here's the truth: they don't just steal your peace, they steal your time, and time is your life. They don't ask for it directly, they take it slowly, through guilt trips, through emotional fires you didn't start, but always ended up putting out, through endless phone calls that begin with, "Can I talk to you real quick?" And end hours later, with your goals abandoned on the floor. You start the day with clarity, you end it drained, not because you lived fully, but because you lived reactively. And that is no way to live. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, warned us of this trap long ago. People are frugal in guarding their property, but wasteful in guarding their time. And he was right. We lock our doors, we guard our passwords, we protect our wallets, but our time, we give it away to people who prove, again and again, they'll only waste it. So here's what Stoicism teaches: the most powerful boundary you can set is your calendar. Not your emotions, not your words, your time. Because when you master your time, you master your energy. And when you master your energy, you become untouchable. Let me make this personal. Have you ever set aside an hour to rest, to create, to simply breathe? And suddenly find yourself on the phone, soothing someone else's crisis, for the 5th time that week. That's not empathy, that's emotional theft. And it ends now. You don't have to argue, you don't need a dramatic announcement. You just begin living differently. You stop replying instantly, you stop explaining delays, you stop letting people insert themselves into your life like it's their right. Because from now on, your schedule is sacred. Ask yourself, does this person deserve space in my day? Does this moment bring me peace, or does it pull me further from it? This isn't cruelty, this is clarity. You don't owe them urgency, you don't owe them presence, you owe yourself peace. So let them wonder why you're not replying, let them spiral, when you no longer pause your life to feed their storm, let them feel the silence they once filled with noise, because every minute you reclaim is a minute you can invest in something real, your rest, your growth, your joy, your life. They'll feel your absence, but more importantly, you'll feel your life again. And that's what healing looks like. You're not being selfish, you're being awake. From now on, protect your time like your life depends on it, because it does. Now let me ask you something else. What if I told you that your greatest weapon isn't your voice, isn't your strength, isn't even your silence, it's your pause, that sacred breath, between their chaos and your clarity, that tiny space where everything changes, if you don't rush through it, because narcissists, they don't fear your anger, they fear your calm, they fear your ability to pause and choose. Instead of react, they want you emotional, impulsive, predictable. They want you to speak before you think, to fire back without breathing, because when you react immediately, you give them the script, but when you pause, you take it back. Imagine this: they insult you, they press your wound, they expect fire, and all they get is silence, a steady breath, a calm gaze, a look that says, "You don't move me anymore." That pause, that's power, that's the Stoic way. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." And that is what the pause gives you, a moment to re-estimate, to recalibrate, to see clearly, and to ask yourself, calmly, is this moment worth my energy? Or is it just bait? Because the pause is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's the quiet space where chaos ends and your self-command begins. Think about it. How many times have you said something in anger and wished you hadn't? How many hours have you lost, replaying a reaction you regret? Now imagine this. You don't flinch, you don't explain, you don't play the game, you just breathe, you stay still. That stillness, it unravels them, because they expected the storm, but got the mountain. And here's what they never see coming: the longer the pause, the stronger your position becomes, the more unreadable you are, the less control they have. You become unpredictable, untouchable, unshakable, because you've stepped out of the loop entirely. So next time they push, don't push back, don't rush to fill the silence, let it stretch, let it speak, and in that pause, say to yourself, calmly, with full awareness, I own my energy, I choose my response, I will not be moved by someone who feeds on reaction. Because the one who can pause is the one who holds the power. The pause isn't empty, it's full of strength, of awareness, of sovereignty. It is the moment where the war ends, before it even begins. So pause, not out of fear, but out of power, and when you do, you become unshakable. Have you ever noticed, the most unreadable person in the room is often the most powerful? They don't shout, they don't overshare, they don't explain, they simply move in silence, and that silence speaks volumes, because when it comes to dealing with manipulative people, especially narcissists, your greatest weapon is not your words, not even your silence, it's your mystery. You see, the more someone knows about you, your thoughts, your fears, your dreams, your next move, the easier it is for them to control you. And narcissists, they don't just listen, they study, they memorize your reactions, they wait for emotional windows, they gather intel with every confession, every breakdown, every overshare, until they know exactly how to pull your strings. But what happens when you stop giving them anything to pull? That's when the game changes, because mystery is not just silence, it's power, it's the calm refusal to be decoded. It's knowing, the more they have to guess, the more they lose control. Marcus Aurelius once asked, "Is what I'm about to say necessary?" And if it wasn't, he said nothing, because silence isn't emptiness, it's protection. Think about it. How many times have your own words been turned against you? How often have you explained yourself, only to feel more misunderstood? And yet, we keep talking, we keep justifying, we keep hoping they'll finally understand, but they don't want understanding, they want control. So here's what you do instead: say less, share less, reveal only what's essential, and no more. Let them wonder what you're thinking, let them guess your next move, because when you become unreadable, you become unshakable. This isn't coldness, it's self-mastery. It's not that you don't feel, it's that you refuse to hand your emotional blueprint to someone who will weaponize it. When you speak, speak with purpose. When you share, share with caution. And when you're unsure, say nothing at all. Because real power doesn't always raise its voice, sometimes it just pauses. He observes and walks away without a sound. Let them guess, let them spiral, let them misread your calm for indifference, because the less they know, the more they fear what you might do next. That is Stoic power, that is emotional sovereignty, and that is how you win, without ever raising your voice. Let me ask you something simple, but life-changing. How much of your life has been stolen, not by violence, but by distraction? Not hours, not days, but years, spent arguing, over-explaining, waiting for someone to change, reacting to chaos that was never yours to solve. Narcissists don't just steal your peace, they steal your time, and time is life. They don't take it all at once, they drain it, slowly, through guilt trips, emotional landmines, circular arguments that never resolve. You begin your day with purpose, and end it exhausted, not from living, but from surviving someone else's storm. Let me ask you this: how many times have you been pulled back into a fight that should have ended long ago? How many times have they said, "Remember when you said this? That's not how it happened. Let's talk about what you did back then." It's a trap, a cycle, and every time you step into it, you abandon the present for a prison made of the past. But here's the truth: you can't heal forward if you're always being dragged backward. The Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The present moment is all we ever possess, not yesterday, not the reruns, not the weaponized memories, only now." So here's the move: stop playing the historian. You are not the keeper of old wounds. You are not obligated to revisit scenes you've already left. If you've apologized once with sincerity, that is enough. If you've clarified your intention, that is enough. Let your presence, not your past, be the loudest thing about you, because narcissists recycle pain to keep you small. They replay your mistakes to shrink your growth. They thrive when you're stuck in defense mode, always explaining, never evolving. But you can end the game with one calm, clear sentence: that's the past. No drama, no escalation, just silence, and stillness. That silence, it's not avoidance, it's evolution. It says, "I'm not available for reruns. I'm building something new." You don't owe anyone a museum tour of your mistakes. You don't need to convince them you've changed, because true growth doesn't beg to be understood, it simply walks forward. So when they reach into the archives, let them talk to the silence. Let them echo in the space you've outgrown. Let them wonder where their audience went, because every time you choose now over then, you reclaim your power, you protect your peace, you step back into your life, and out of their illusion. You're not bitter, you're just done carrying what was never yours, done explaining to people who never listened, done arguing over chapters you've already closed. Because you, my friend, you are not a historian, you are a creator, a builder, of new days, and this moment, this breath, is where your power begins, so stay here, stand tall, move forward, and let the past fade, in silence. Now imagine waking up and realizing, the life you're living, isn't even yours, the goals you chase, not yours, the opinions you defend, not yours, the version of success you strive for, crafted by someone else. It doesn't happen all at once, it happens slowly, when you don't define yourself. And here's the truth most people never realize until it's too late: if you don't define your life, someone else will, and manipulators, especially narcissists, are more than happy to write that script for you. You see, narcissists don't just want control over situations, they want control over your identity. They'll chip away at your beliefs, reshape your priorities, rewrite your values. Until one day, you're living a version of yourself that feels foreign, unfamiliar, exhausted. Underscore 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 underscore. They'll make you question your boundaries, make you feel guilty for wanting peace, and if you don't have something anchoring you, a clear inner compass, you'll slowly start to bend. You won't even realize it's happening, until you no longer recognize the person in the mirror. That's why way 13 to protect your power is this: ground yourself in a personal philosophy, know what you stand for, know what kind of life you're building, and most importantly, decide who you are, before anyone else tries to decide it for you. The Stoics mastered this. They didn't wait for approval or instruction, they built a code, an inner philosophy, that guided every action, every reaction. Every boundary underscore 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 underscore. Marcus Aurelius didn't rule Rome by chasing popularity, he ruled through principle. He asked himself daily, what is within my control, what aligns with my nature, what truly matters, because when you live by principle, not by reaction, you become impossible to manipulate. Guilt doesn't stick, confusion doesn't sink in, shame doesn't work. Why? Because you already know your boundaries, you know your yes, and you especially know your no. So let me ask you, what do you believe in, really? Not what society told you, not what your parents expected, not what your ex tried to convince you of, but you. What matters to you, more than approval? What will you never trade, no matter how charming, manipulative, or persistent someone becomes? Because once you define that, once you write your own code, narcissists lose their leverage. They might poke at your confidence. They might challenge your right to be still, to be silent, to walk away, but none of it sticks, because your power doesn't come from their permission, it comes from within. Your personal philosophy doesn't have to be poetic, it doesn't have to sound like ancient wisdom. It just has to be real. Maybe it's, I protect my peace at all costs. I don't chase love, I choose self-respect. I walk away from chaos. Not because I'm weak, but because I've outgrown it. I owe no one an explanation for my evolution. That's your code, and when you live it consistently, not just when things are easy, but especially when they're hard, you become unshakable, unmovable, untouchable. When you say, this is who I am, this is what I believe, this is what I will not tolerate. You build a wall no narcissist can climb, not because you're stubborn, but because you're anchored. And clarity, it's intimidating, because people can argue with your words. But they can't argue with your discipline. So today, stop asking for direction from people who benefit from your confusion. Stop waiting for permission to become who you already are. Define your code, live by it, let it lead, because the moment you do, manipulation no longer works, control no longer scares you, you stop defending your peace, and start protecting it. Underscore 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 underscore. And if someone says, "You've changed," smile, and know they're right. You have changed, because you finally remembered who you were meant to be all along. Let me ask you something most people never stop to consider. What if the reason you feel stuck isn't because you're lost, but because your focus has been hijacked? Because the most dangerous kind of manipulation isn't loud, it's quiet, it's slow, and it steals the most valuable thing you'll ever own, your attention. Narcissists don't always need love, they don't always crave approval, but they always need your attention. They want to be the sun in your emotional universe, everything revolving around their moods, their chaos, their validation. They don't care if you love them or hate them, as long as your energy stays locked on them, they win. And the cost? It's not just peace, it's purpose, it's time you'll never get back. But the Stoics knew something powerful. They knew your attention is your life. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. And when you let someone else control that flow, you're not living your life, you're surviving theirs. Marcus Aurelius didn't say, "Avoid toxic people." He said, "You become what you give your thoughts to." And if all your thoughts are consumed with proving, pleasing, or fixing someone else, you lose sight of your mission. So here's the question: what are you building with your life? Not just surviving, not just coping, but really building. Is it a peaceful mind, a meaningful career, a future you can be proud of? Because when you shift your energy back to that, they shrink, their power dissolves. You don't even have to fight them. You just have to stop orbiting them. Picture a master builder, halfway through constructing a cathedral. Would he stop every time someone shouted his name from the street? No, he's got bricks to lay. He's building something sacred. So are you. Every time you choose your purpose over their performance, every time you pause instead of react, every time you build instead of beg, you take your life back. This isn't about revenge, it's not about proving anything, it's about finally becoming unavailable to chaos. So ask yourself, one more time, what would I be capable of if I gave everything to my mission, instead of their drama? If you're ready to stop orbiting noise, and start building peace, subscribe. This channel is for the quiet warriors, the ones who stopped explaining, the ones who started creating. Let them spin in circles. You've got a life to build. And this is only the beginning. What if the loudest form of control was the silence they left behind? Not the arguments, not the chaos, but the stillness that follows, when the noise stops, and you're left alone with yourself. And in that silence, most people don't feel free. They feel lost, because when you walk away from a narcissist, really walk away, you're not met with closure. You're met with a void, no text, no drama, no apology, just quiet. And for many, that quiet feels unbearable, so they rush to fill it, with rebound relationships, with distractions, with noise, because silence feels like emptiness, and emptiness feels like failure. But here's the truth, That silence you're afraid of, it's not a loss, it's a portal back, to yourself, to the version of you that existed before the manipulation, before you were trained to explain, defend, justify, shrink. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Nowhere can a man find a more peaceful retreat than into his own soul." The Stoics didn't fear solitude, they sought it, as a path to clarity, to see what's real, what's theirs, what's eternal. Silence, to the Stoics, wasn't punishment, it was purification, and you, right now, are standing in that fire. Don't run from it, because narcissists expect your collapse. They want to believe that even in absence, they still control your mind. They count on your need to feel something, anything, just to avoid being alone. But what happens? When you stop filling the gap, when you let the silence breathe, when you normalize peace, they lose their final hook. They realize you're not just gone physically. You've reclaimed your soul, and when they come back, as they always do, they find there's no space left, not out of bitterness, not out of revenge, but because you've filled your life with truth, with purpose, with yourself. So the next time the silence creeps in, don't reach for your phone, don't fill the void, sit in it, breathe through it, let it cleanse the noise still echoing inside you, because that silence isn't empty, it's yours, it's sacred, it's where your real healing begins. And peace doesn't chase, peace doesn't prove, peace doesn't perform, it just is, and it's yours now, if you're ready to stop fearing the silence, and start walking in it. With strength, subscribe, not just for more videos, but as a quiet declaration, you're done reacting, you're ready to reclaim, your stillness is your revolution, so you've made it here, through the chaos, through the mind games, through the storm of manipulation that once made you question your own worth, and now, you stand at the edge of something powerful, not revenge, not control, but freedom, because what you've just uncovered aren't just tactics to deal with narcissists, they are 15 timeless Stoic strategies, designed not to fight darkness, but to walk away from it, quietly, wisely, completely. Let's be clear, you didn't win by out-arguing them. You didn't win by proving your worth, you won the moment you stopped performing, the moment you stopped explaining, the moment you chose stillness over chaos, clarity over confusion, boundaries over approval. You started to win when you paused before reacting, and broke the cycle of their control. You spoke only when necessary, and let your silence become your strength. You stopped revisiting old wounds, and reclaimed your mental clarity. You built a personal code, so unshakable, no manipulation could penetrate it. You redirected your focus to your mission, and let purpose dissolve their power. You normalized their absence, and let solitude become the sound of your healing. Each one of these moves didn't just push them back, it brought you home, to yourself, because this was never about beating them, it was always about building you, your peace, your time, your emotional independence, your future. As the Stoics remind us, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. So don't try to make them understand, don't chase closure that was never genuine, and don't waste another breath defending a truth you've already chosen to live. Let your discipline speak, let your transformation echo, let your life, not your pain, become your legacy, because now, the spotlight is no longer on them, it's on your next chapter, and the question you must answer is this. Backhand index pointing right. Which of these 15 Stoic strategies will you start practicing today? Leave a comment below, not just to share, but to mark the moment you chose strength over survival, clarity over confusion, power over performance. This isn't the end, it's the beginning of a life built in silence, but lived in full, and that is the kind of peace they'll never understand.